Now that the One Piece live-action adaptation on Netflix has been out for a few days and people have gotten a chance to see it, we see that the reactions are largely positive. Adapting anime to live action is no easy feat, as Netflix found out with Cowboy Bebop. But what is it about One Piece that sets it apart from other live action adaptations? Did Netflix crack the code that has eluded Disney for the past several years? Join me, dear viewer, as I dive deep into what makes One Piece so good. It's beginning to be very obvious that the superhero genre has ridden its last ride into the sunset, and with it, Hollywood studios are scrambling to grab the next cash cow, and that seems to be live-action adaptations. Although no one's been able to do it just right. Disney has been at this for a few years, and they don't seem to have cracked the code of what makes a live-action adaptation good. With flops such as Mulan, The Lion King, and the latest disaster, The Little Mermaid, Disney has been reeling with losses, and that's not even adding the disaster of Disney Star Wars. But another company has begun to dip its toes in the water. Netflix has been trying to maintain its long-established foothold in the streaming landscape. They've dabbled in pretty much every single genre anyone could possibly think of, including live-action adaptations. Although their first big foray into live-action adaptations, Cowboy Bebop, was, shall we say, less than successful. So hopes were ultimately very low for the One Piece adaptation, but Netflix seems to have a genuine massive hit on its hands. Within a few days of release, One Piece garnered more viewership than Stranger Things at its height. It looks like if you give your fans what they want, you have great success. Who would have thunk it? It seems that the reason Netflix got this one right all comes down to the creator of One Piece himself, Eiichiro Oda. While other live-action adaptations have suffered from poor writing, insertion of personal politics, and bad CGI effects, among other things, the primary reason for Disney's failure at live-action remakes was their complete lack of respect for and disregard for the source material. Disney also has not consulted with the original creators to see how a live-action adaptation should go. I mean, it would be pretty hard, as most of Disney's fairy tale creators have been dead for centuries. But Eiichiro Oda was intimately connected to the live-action adaptation from the beginning. Eiichiro Oda not only gave his blessing for Netflix to make a live-action adaptation, with the condition that he was also involved in its production. Netflix realized that they were dealing with an intellectual property with a massive fan base, so they should tread carefully. Being a large tech company, Netflix adheres to the move fast and break things ethos permeating in Silicon Valley since its founding. They certainly broke my favorite anime, Cowboy Bebop, but unlike Disney, they learned from their mistakes. I'm sure that they've paid attention to channels such as mine, and of course, much bigger channels such as Nerdrotic and The Critical Drinker, and took our advice to heart. They listened to the fans and they respected the source material. One of Eiichiro Oda's conditions for Netflix was to respect the source material and to stay true to the original look and feel of the anime, and didn't allow them to put their own spin on things. Of course, the One Piece anime is a political show. It deals with complex political themes like corrupt government, revolutions, racism, and slavery with what many would consider woke characters. That's all fine because it is the vision of Eiichiro Oda. Netflix putting their own spin on Oda's complex themes and politics would take away from the show. As I mentioned in my Dark Age of Cinema series, the complete lack of originality in Hollywood has been out to kill beloved franchises through bad writing, bad acting, and insertion of personal politics and ideology. I also mentioned that if Hollywood's prerogative is to insert its politics and ideologies into films and shows, they should do it to their own original work. Their lack of creativity meant that they needed to insert their politics and ideologies into the work of others. They had to ruin the work of others because they were either too lazy, too stupid, or too unimaginative to come up with their own work. After the disastrous Cowboy Bebop adaptation, Netflix quickly realized their mistake and chose to remain faithful to Eiichiro Oda's original work. And now Eiichiro Oda has come out and slammed the various live-action remakes that have come out. He said, quote, "A good live-action film does not need to change the storyline drastically from the manga," end quote. And clearly, he's right, as One Piece has shown to be massively successful. Studios don't have to deviate wildly from the source material in order to be successful. This is exactly what Disney has gotten wrong. Their latest flop, The Little Mermaid, didn't deviate so much from the core general storyline, but they added a lot of superfluous material that didn't add anything meaningful to the story arc or development of the characters. But for a live-action adaptation such as Mulan, they changed the very core of the story and the character, all in what they thought would appease Chinese audiences. With Mulan, their failure was twofold. First, the non-Western world has not adopted the woke girl boss Mary Sue ideology, and they maintain traditional gender roles. Second, Chinese cinema has now proven to be massively successful on its own, with hits such as The Wandering Earth and the Wolf Warriors franchises. So they don't need to eat whatever sludge Disney has been trying to feed them. So what's the key lesson here, class?
Bueller.
That's right, it's to remain faithful to the source material and respect the mythology of the work you're trying to adapt. And it seems like Netflix has indeed cracked the code to making a good live-action adaptation with One Piece. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that Netflix did a good job adapting One Piece into live action? Please do let me know down below in the comments. And as always, hit that like button, ring that notification bell, and smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.